Hey there, everyone. I'm meteorologist Hannah Fink, and thank you so much for joining me for Next Weather. We're going to be discussing the new outlook that came out for the 2026 hurricane season from Colorado State University. Now, there are multiple meteorologists and research groups that go into the predictions of the overall outlook that we're expecting going into each individual hurricane season. Well, the earliest one is Colorado State University. They are the first ones to release the earliest outlook, usually in April, which we are now in the beginning parts of April. And then we have NOAA soon after. They'll issue theirs in about a month. That's the official government prediction there. But hurricane season is just around the corner. We are now in the month of April, and Colorado State University released their official outlook for the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season on April 9th. So let's break down what the forecast means for you, why it matters, and how you can stay prepared. So Colorado State University is calling for a slightly below average season. They're predicting 13 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes. Major hurricanes are category 3s or more. For context, the 30-year average is 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. Now, this outlook is based on several different factors, including El Nino conditions, which is expected later this year, and slightly cooler than normal water temperatures in the central as well as the eastern Atlantic, both of which tend to limit tropical development. Some parts of the western Atlantic are warmer than normal, but overall conditions aren't very favorable for an active season. Now, Colorado State has been releasing hurricane season forecasts for decades. They're one of the earliest and most trusted scientific outlooks each year, giving meteorologists, emergency managers, and media a head start for planning and the way we are going to relay the public message. Now, CSU uses real climate science, analyzing key factors like El Nino or La Nina conditions. El Nino is Pacific Ocean water temperatures warm, which usually means fewer Atlantic hurricanes. Now, La Nina is Pacific Ocean waters are usually cooler. Usually more Atlantic hurricanes do occur in those conditions. Now, we are predicting the possibility of an El Nino to occur, so that means we could see fewer Atlantic hurricanes. So another thing that goes into that is sea surface temperatures. Warm waters fuel storms, hotter oceans equal more energy for hurricanes. And then cooler ocean water temperatures mean weaker storms or fewer forming just because they don't have much fuel to hold on to. Another thing they analyze is wind shear, differences in wind speeds or directions at different heights in the atmosphere. Strong wind shear can break storms apart, or weak wind shear allow them to grow, because when we have different wind directions going on in the atmosphere, it disrupts the spinning going on. But when we don't have that, there's nothing to disrupt that. So that's one thing to note there. And then another thing is the Atlantic pressure pattern. High or low pressure in the Atlantic can stir storms or even affect development. Favorable patterns help storms form. Obviously, unfavorable patterns can block them. And then the last one they typically look at is accumulated cyclone energy, or known as ACE, a measure of the total strength and duration of all storms in a season. High ACE is strong and long-lasting storms. Low ACE is weaker and shorter storms. So while CSU forecasts don't predict specific storm tracks, they guide preparedness and public awareness and are updated throughout the season to reflect changing conditions. Many other forecasts and agencies use CSU's outlook as a baseline for their own prediction. Now, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also provides the official U.S. government outlook for hurricane season. Now, their forecasts are based on similar science like El Nino, sea surface temperatures, and wind patterns, but they also help communities, media, and emergency managers plan ahead. NOAA's 2026 outlook isn't out yet, but we'll be keeping an eye on their updates later on this spring and summer. They'll most likely have one come out in the month of May. So we have about a little bit over a month before we see theirs come out. But one of the big reasons this season could be less active is the expected El Nino pattern. So how does that work? Well, during El Nino, the central and eastern Pacific Oceans are much warmer, weakening the trade winds and shifting global weather pattern. In the Atlantic, this creates stronger wind shear, which can tear apart storms before they fully form. The result? Fewer hurricanes overall in the Atlantic, though other regions like the Pacific may see more storm activity. Knowing about El Nino helps us predict the overall intensity of the season, giving communities a head start on preparations. Now remember, hurricane season runs from June 1st through November 30th, with the peak usually between mid-August and late October. Even in a quieter season, things can become dangerous real fast because it only takes one hurricane making landfall to cause major damage. Now, this is the time to prepare. Things you can do: review your hurricane plan, check your emergency supplies, and restock on things you need to restock on, and make sure your family and home are prepared, whether that's your emergency kits, having an evacuation plan, or just an overall plan on what you need to do if you have to shelter in place. So being ready early is the best way to stay safe, even with the quieter forecast that we're probably going to see. Now, this is a possibility. This is not me saying it is going to be a quiet hurricane season. Things can always happen. You never know. Things can always change. But right now, based off of climatological data and other scientific components such as atmospheric and oceanic conditions, this is what we're looking at right now regarding the hurricane season in April. We still have 2 months before we get to hurricane season. CSU, or Colorado State University, is probably still going to issue another outlook when we get into May. NOAA's probably they are going to issue another one. Typically, they both issue one about every month or every other month, depending on how the season is favored to go, whether it's going to increase in activity or decrease in activity. We've seen it multiple different times. So here, even though it's quiet, you still want to be prepared, especially along the Gulf Coast. So now is the time to review your hurricane plan and check for your supplies before we get to June 1st. So make sure you stay tuned with us as we provide updates from Colorado State University as well as NOAA as we get closer to the season and as we get into the season as well. So remember, even with a below average forecast, preparedness is key.